Lorcana Locals!
Marvelous! Fight!
It is the first game with me versus the returning Connor. Amber Steel Song returns, but will it stand a chance against my brand new Sapphire and Steel Flood Force? Let's find out. We see a first turn inking of a Robin Hood into a Cinderella for some early game singing. Being able to sing cost 3 or less, which is prime territory for Let the Storm Rage On. Great starting move on Connor's side of the board. I ink a Jafar and simply end my turn because I didn't have any of my Ron drops. As seems to be the norm, I never seem to have the 1 drops. And this is just a thing with me. There are plenty of 1 drops in this deck, I assure you. They're just not coming out. They're just there, chilling. It's a pain. Meanwhile, on Connor's side, plays out an Ursula, quest for 1 with Cinderella. Simple and easy turn 2. Ursula now makes it so that we can go up to cost 4 songs, which is Along Came Zeus territory. In my side, we then ink a Fishbone Quill, go into a turn 2 Smee. Big body, big lore, big early game, big opportunity here. But let's see if he will last. We see the turn 3 Aerial that allows Connor to search the top 4 cards of his deck, pick a song from among them, add it to his hand. The others go into the bottom of the deck in any order he so wishes. Goes for a Strength of a Raging Fire, which makes complete sense. 3 cards on board, being able to use Strength to immediately get rid of Smee if you so wish to, if you want to sing it with either Cinderella or Ursula. Very viable strat if you want to do that straight away, or you can just quest. But it's up to Connor to see what he is going to do next. He is going to sing Along Came Zeus, so there goes for Smeagol, and quest for 1 with Cinderella, taking Connor up to 2. Great little bit of control there by Connor. As we go on to the next turn, I draw. Looking at my hand over here, admire the Muppet shirt in the far left side, if you can catch it. Yes, I like wearing Muppet shirts to the Lorcana events. Remember, wearing anything Disney when you go to a Lorcana event does give you more stickers. Don't want to forget that. I ink my own Robin Hood on my end. Use all of my ink at that moment in time, and there's a Fishbone Quill. Just need that little bit of ink. Using Fishbone, add another card from my hand into the inkwell face down. Don't need to show it to my opponent because the card does not say I need to. Nor does it need to be a card that is inkable. It could be any card in your hand that you just don't want to use right now, I guess. I ink another one, so I've ramped up a little bit more. Goes over to Connor's turn. Let's see what he's going to bring to the table. Inks a Strength of a Raging Fire, but since I do not have any characters on board, that makes perfect sense to me. Plays out the big boy Robin Hood just to get him ready. Why the heck not? That sounds like a good plan to me. Quests up to 5. Brilliant turn on Connor's end. Back to me. Got to enjoy that +1 extra ink, so now I'm on 4, I believe. And looking at my hand, it's time to see what I can do, as that is a pretty scary board on Connor's side. Having out the Robin Hood as well now makes it so he has a way to get rid of things and gain lore as a result. I use Fishbone to ink an additional, and then I pay a bunch of ink there and I play out Flaversham, get rid of the Fishbone Quill, draw 2 cards. What a good move, in hopes that it can help me out. 1 ink remaining, and I haven't inked this turn. I've only used Fishbone, so I ink a Smee in my hand, pay for 1. That could only mean it's Fortisphere. Draw a card straight away, take advantage of that, and it goes straight back over to Connor's turn. I'm building up my inkwell quite well, but there is still a very scary board on Connor's side of the board. All I have is a Flaversham. Yes, I can take advantage of Flaversham in order to do the thing, but Connor's not too worried. He's going to quest for big lore, go straight up to 10. Fantastic use there. Because what's the point? There's no point wasting anything. I've only got the one card out. All Flavisham's going to do is let me draw cards. Yes, I'm building up a sizable inkwell, but I still need the characters and the ink combos in order to make things work as I want them to work. So let's see how we do here. I sing how far we'll go with Flavisham. So look at the top two, add one to hand, add one to inkwell face down exerted. A little bit more ramp for later on, why the heck not? Then with that in mind, the additional card draw could go a long way here. I thought to myself I didn't want to quest with Flavisham and get rid of a Fortisphere, just in case I needed bodyguard for anything in particular. Against Amber Steel Song, probably not, but with that big Robin Hood out, that's a big target. I pay 3 for Pete in order to shut down any action usage, which is pretty good. And then I just use another how far I'll go, because it's the only option I really had in hand at that moment in time, to check the next two, to add one to my hand and another one into the inkwell, expanding my ink by a gratuitous amount, which is very good. I then pick my card for the inkwell, pick my card for the hand. That is effectively my turn there, and with Pete coming into play, Connor is unable to play actions until the beginning of my next turn, shutting that down. He can swing into Flavisham if he so wishes, but he can also play characters if he so wishes. Now, bear in mind, when you play Pete, that stops any and all action plays, including singing songs, because singing a song is the same as playing an action card, because they are counted as action songs. Fun fact, in case you didn't know how that works. But there you go, no point doing anything else. He's got the advantage, quest up to 15, let's go. Huge inkwell and a relatively good hand size on my side of the board, but I need a way to get rid of this as soon as I possibly can. There are big threats. The Robin Hood is a big threat. The Aerial Singer 5 is a big threat. Basically anything with Singer in Amber Steel Song is a threat. Now we quest for Flavisham. Now we draw 2 cards. You did see one of them was a Porpsicle. Pretty darn interesting. The good thing I like about Pete as well, Pete is a free stat block, so I can just swing Pete into something to get rid of him. So that effectively means that Ariel and Cinderella could just be knocked out by Pete, which can benefit me. And I believe that's what I'm doing. Yes, I swing Pete into the Ariel, take 2 damage, but at least Ariel Singer 5 is gone. He can still sing 5 cost songs with the big Robin Hood if he so wishes, but I'm kind of teasing the playing field here. He can go for 2 lore by getting rid of my Pete if he so wishes on his turn. This is bearing in mind he can quest to 17, 18, 19 next turn, so I have stopped him for questing for game. I ink another Fishbone on my side. That is a lot of ink. I spend quite a few of it for Tinkerbell and deal 1 damage to everything on the board, which is pretty nice. So Ursula is now to 3, Cinderella's on 1, Robin Hood is on 5. Play out a Porpsicle in order to draw a card. And what is going to be my next move? I need to do more and more and more. And I play out a Tipo along with the Porpsicle in order to take 1 card, put it into my inkwell. But I am going to use the Porpsicle in order to get rid of the damage on Pete. So Pete is back to a 3-3, meaning that yes, Robin Hood can still take him out, but Robin Hood is going to take a considerable amount of damage. And because there's only 1 damage on every character, yes, Connor can go for Rapunzel in order to heal and draw, but it's not a big viable option. There is the Prince Naveen into Grab Your Sword. Fantastic move there. So that is 2 damage on every single thing on my side of the board, taking Tinkerbell down to 3, Flavisham down to 4, Pete down to 1. So it's like as if Pete always had the Porpsicle damage in the first place. But it just makes it so that Pete lasts that little bit longer. He needs to get rid of things if he so wishes. Naveen's only fresh out, so he can only quest to 19 still. Even if he uses Robin Hood in order to tackle into one of my guys to get rid of him, he only gains 2 lore and again can only go to 19 this turn. So I am safe from Connor being able to win this turn. May I just say as well, this is the longest I've ever seen Connor think in a match versus me. That to me is a win, because I like to think that me having a chance against Connor is very, very good. And I've been able to make Connor think, I've been able to keep him on his toes, maybe make some annoying plays he's not necessarily the biggest fan of. That was Strength of a Raging Fire, smacking down the Tinkerbell because he knows Tink's going to be a threat. But yeah, I'm really happy that I'm at least, with this deck, able to take someone who's on the skill level of Connor and make him think on this level. That means I'm doing something right with this deck alone to make my opponent think this deeply. When in previous games, like you might have seen here on the channel, I haven't actually gotten that far. So big respect to Connor for that. And I know he may look at this and just go, I'm not special. But to me, he's very skillful with trading card games in general. So I respect what he brings to the table, and I always learn something new from every game that I play with my wacky decks that I bring to the table. So it's always great. Connor goes up to 18. Borderline gets rid of my entire board. Just have a damaged Flaversham out there, chilling out, tending to his wounds while tending to a workshop. Let's see what happens with that huge Inkwell I now have at my disposal. Pump it all out. There's a Robin Hood. There's a Cogsworth. There's my chances. Gone. Didn't get anything I needed to help sort this board out. But it's absolutely fine. That is game 1. Now we move on to game 2 with Connor. Game 1 was interesting. A little bit of tech coming out, but I didn't exactly have the best draws nor the best hand. That's a first turn I like to see. Ink a Fishbone, play a Porpsicle, draw a card, and if you don't see a Porpsicle turn 1 on your Sapphire player, start to cry. I did in first game, but maybe the second game would be a little bit better. Start off with the Fishbone Quill, head on over to Connor's first turn. What is he going to do, I wonder? Are we going to see the first turn Cinderella? Well, there's a Cinderella in the Inkwell, the big knight, and, well, there you go. Cindy for Cindy. Makes perfect sense to me. I think I actually managed to get Connor a little bit ticked off that he was unable to shift into Big Cindy. At least I think that was the case. I don't remember. But here comes my turn. I ink a Tinkerbell. It's way too early to bring the Tink out. I can't actually do a lot, so turn 2 I actually pass on over to Connor. Didn't get any of my 2 drops, which was very upsetting. But there is a turn 2 Smee on Connor's side of the board. Quest for 1 with Cinderella. It's now time. Connor with Smee out on the board, meaning that he can quest for 2, do some big aggro plays. I ink a big Simba on my end. I play Let the Storm Rage On, immediately get rid of the Cinderella, and draw a card. Have a little bit of control. I could have Let the Storm Rage on Smee, and if Smee quested, then Smee would have gone. But I didn't want to give Connor any chance of potentially doing something cheeky with Smee. Plus, he doesn't need to quest with Smee if I have nothing on the board. He could just keep Smee on standby, not get rid of him, wait until turn 4, play a Rapunzel, draw 2 cards by healing Smee, which can be a bit of a danger play. Plays out Pete on turn 3 to shut down any action shenanigans that could potentially happen with the deck, which is a very good move on his part in order to control my turn. Takes for 1 damage with Smee after questing for 2, and back over to me. I ink a Jafar from my hand, going up to 4 ink in the Inkwell. Pay the 4, play out a Flaversham, which is what we need, get rid of a Porpsicle, draw 2 cards. You saw Pete go into my hand, hell yeah you did. And we're going to have to see what that brings to the table in just a moment, methinks. As that is the end of my turn, all I can do, go over to Connor, drawing for turn, setting up his Inkwell, setting up his boys. We are good to go, ready to see how things are going to play out. Now, Connor understands that in my deck I can, if I don't necessarily need to quest with Flaversham, I can sing how far I'll go to still get a benefit from Flaversham being a 4 cost. So he understands I do have elements of ramp in here. Fun fact, I do not play 1 jump ahead in my deck at all. Some of you may think, oh, but that's early game ramp, surely you would want that. Maybe, but I had a lot of uninkables in the deck and I didn't want to overblow it with additional ramping, so I just don't run it. Simple as, I just don't do it. But here we go, we see a Piglet being played out. Bare necessities going into the Inkwell. Piglet being played out, meaning that if he has at least 2 other characters out on the board, Piglet can quest for, I believe, +2 lore, making Piglet a free quester, which is really interesting. So what am I going to do on my side? I ink another Flaversham because you don't need 2 out at the same time. Plus, if I play out a Flaversham with no items, that's a bit of a risky play right there. So here we go. Now I've got to think about what the biggest threat is. Do I get rid of Smee? And if I can get rid of Smee, that means that there is no 2 quester on the board. But also, do I get rid of Piglet, because Piglet can also be a big threat. I then decide to sing how far I'll go. Let's draw the card, add 1 to the inkwell, see if that benefits or not, before playing out any cards I may regret later on, eh? So I get all that done. How far I'll go helps me improve my inkwell for next turn, as well as get an extra card into my hand, which gives me more ideas. Here we go. There's the ink. There is Grab Your Sword. 2 damage to absolutely everything, so that whacks me away, and that also whacks the Piglet away. Also dealing 2 damage over to Pete, so if Pete wanted to smack in a Flaversham, for any what reason he may have, he's gonna die. So that's really good. Now, Connor does the right thing that you should do at that moment in time. Play out the Rapunzel, heal 2 damage, draw 2 cards. Fantastic play there. Inks a Robin Hood of his own. And with Pete, just decides to quest for 1, go up to 7. Super solid. I don't blame him at all. Probably the best option that he had out on the board. I couldn't think of anything else. Really, especially since all I had is Flaversham out. I sing another How Far I'll Go. Another big benefit. Look at my top 2. One's going to go in the inkwell, there it is, and one's going to go into the hand, there it goes. Notice that I don't have any items in play, and this isn't an item-centric deck by any means. I'm mostly using Flaversham to get additional card draw when I need it, and to sing How Far I'll Go, because How Far I'll Go is a super solid card if you are running Flaversham. If you don't want to run it at 4, I don't blame you, but at least 3, I would say. I ink a Tipo, because sometimes you don't need your favourite child out. I then play a bunch of ink. There is Chief Bogo, the playmaker of this deck, and then I pay 3 for an Aladdin Floodborn, which then means 1 damage to every character on Connor's side of the board. That's 1 damage to Pete and 1 damage to Rapunzel, and the madness begins. Now, yes, Chief Bogo is a gigantic threat which Connor can get rid of exceedingly easily, and I'm baiting him. This is the whole point. You play out Bogo as bait, pull off Bogo's ability as soon as you're able to with a mini combo like I did, and that's it. You put Bogo out as bait, you can keep the Floodborn you also put out alongside Floodborn, and keep them out as a playmaker for later on. At least that's my technique and strategy going into this. Quests up to 8, back over to my turn. Flaversham and Aladdin in play, and the Aladdin, if I quest, gets rid of an item, but outside of that he does have a solid 3/3 stat block, which is nice for tackling into things. So I play out a Fortisphere, draw a card, I quest with Flaversham, get rid of the Fortisphere I literally just played in order to draw 2 more cards, which is fantabby-dozy. With that in mind, what are we now thinking of doing, I wonder? I've got a pretty interesting board on Connor's side to deal with here. Pete's got a damage, Rapunzel's got a damage, and there's a fresh big bad boy champion of Sherwood, Robin Hood, to deal with as well, which can be a very dangerous threat if you don't keep an eye out for him. Even if he doesn't attack you, the fact that he's a 5 cost means he can sing A Whole New World, he can sing Grab Your Sword. Very good character in general. I ink a Fishbone Quill because I don't think I'm going to need it. I pay so much for another How Far I'll Go because I just need to see how far I can go. 1 goes into my inkwell, 1 goes into my hand, which is fantastic. I'm ramping up like a mad lad, but I do need to actually play some cards. And there's a Pete, so I can at least shut down any plans that Connor may have involving songs for next turn, which is fantabby-dozy. Play out a Popsicle, draw a card, and now what do I do with Aladdin? I can strike into Rapunzel, I can just get rid of Pete if I so wanted. Do I bait the champion of Sherwood, Robin Hood? That's what I'm thinking of here. What is my most beneficial play? Aladdin, the laddie that he is, he's going to swing into Pete. They're just going to trade 3-3 for 3-3. So that now means Champion of Sherwood. He can sing songs. He can bash into Flaversham, but will not get rid of Flaversham, so he will not get the +2 law game. Works in my favour. There drops the aerial. Look at the top 4. Let's see what song Connor goes for, shall we? Strength of a Raging Fire would be good. Whole New World would be good if he doesn't think his hand is anything too crazy viable. But we shall see what happens. 2 ink left to play with after playing out the aerial, but you do have a Singer 4 in Rapunzel and a Singer 5 with the Champion of Sherwood Robin Hood. But why sing songs? Why worry when you can just quest and go up to 11? Absolutely fine by me. Nothing else to do. Not a problem. 11 on board for Connor. Can quest for another 2-4-5 next turn, going up to 16, which is scary territory. Look at the amount of ink I have. Hopefully I can play something to do something next turn. We shall see. I ink a Smee. I have Flaversham and I have Pete out on board. I can quest with Flaversham, get rid of a Porpsicle, draw another couple of cards if I need to. I can also sing with Flaversham with another how far I'll go. I think I've only used 3 this time round. I can't remember entirely. There's my BOGO. Here we go. BOGO is back online. And with that in mind, I'm going to use a bunch more ink and play out the Cogsworth, dealing 1 damage to everybody. So that's another 1 damage to Rapunzel, 1 damage to Robin Hood, and 1 damage to the aerial, which could definitely work in my favour here. Now with that in mind, I've got a couple of ink left in play. Got a nice board going out. Bear in mind, BOGO and Cogsworth can't do anything. I have resist +1 on these characters now, so I'm going to swing into Rapunzel with Pete. Pete takes 0 damage as a result of the resist +1 from Cogsworth. I'm then going to quest with Flaversham to then be able to draw 2 cards. Are they going to benefit me in any way? I'm going to pay 1 and play out a Fortisphere, allowing me to draw another card. I draw into another Fortisphere like you guys just saw there. And now with 1 ink remaining, is it worth playing out the Fortisphere? Do I? Yes, I do. Draw another card. I drew into a Smee. And we go over to Connor's turn. A damaged Champion of Sherwood, a damaged aerial, 11 on board lore-wise, and an opportunity to quest for 3 if he so wishes, or do some other crazy stuff. Because he can now sing songs again because my Pete did his thing the turn prior. Here we go, sets down the ink, increasing the inkwell amounts. Does the payment, puts out the 1-drop Robin Hood. And Ariel is going to sing A Whole New World. That is it. A big hand going into my discard there, including the Floodborn Aurora, which is sad times. But the good thing about not running A Whole New World in my deck is that if my opponent in Amber Steel Song is running A Whole New World, especially this late in the game, this could really benefit me unless my opponent's able to control any tech pieces I have out on the board at this time. I can just keep playing out Floodborns with Chief BOGO and really start devastating the board. So here we go. We see a Smee played out on Connor's side. Again, big thinkies for big plays in the future. Didn't use any ink for A Whole New World because he was able to sing it with Ariel being a Singer 5. And here we go. We see a bunch more ink being used here. It's... no. Ooh, think about it. Let's have a thinky. See what I mean? I have never had a game where I've pushed Connor to this level of thought. And that to me is a victory. The fact that I can take a player that is really good at my locals and take him to a point where he has to think. And you may think to yourself, oh, but thinking's important in a card game. And it is. It very much is, because one misplay could result in everything going haywire. But in the case of someone like Connor, I've never seen him think in matches against me. I've just seen him do. So you gotta understand, this to me is exceedingly humble. He's taking my deck seriously, and I respect that. So we see him use Strength of a Raging Fire to get rid of the Pete, because Pete's stat block is a scary thing. And we're back in the game. And you may be thinking, oh, but you had resist +1. Yes, but Strength of a Raging Fire did 4 damage, still getting rid of Pete, because he would have still taken 3. And guess what? He's a 3/3 stat block, so it was bound to happen. So here comes my turn. Big Inkwell being built up. Jeez. Part of me's thinking, what if I ran the Bell that benefited from having a giant Inkwell? But that's not the point of the deck. The point of the deck is to literally flood with Floodborns and using the ability of Bogo to just keep everything damaged and push for pressure. So let's see what we're going to be doing here, shall we? Connor's board, looking quite intimidating, being able to quest for quite a lot. Sing with Cogsworth, grab your sword, so that's 2 damage to everything on board, which is very handy. Gets rid of the Aerial, gets rid of a Robin Hood, deals 2 more damage to the Champion of Sherwood Robin Hood as well. This now means all I need to do is 1 more damage to get rid of Smee. I sing, let the Storm Rage on with Bogo in order to deal 2 more damage to Robin Hood, and I also draw a card. And then I play another Bogo, which means I now deal 2 damage every time I play a Floodborn, and guess what? I pay the ink. It's another Bogo. Oh no, that's 3 damage to everything on board. And I play an Aladdin. 3 damage to absolutely everything on board. Everything is dead. Was it a little bit overkill? Maybe, but now I have a terrifying board available. I quest for 1 with Flavisham, get rid of a Fortisphere, draw 2 cards, and I'm in a very nice place right now. I can just take my time, catch up to where Connor is. If I just play a Floodborn character in any capacity, I can deal 3 damage to any character Connor has out on the board. He's going to go Song Searching with Aerial. What's he going to take? He's going to take a Long Came Zeus, which is a very good choice here in order to basically pinpoint and take down a single Bogo, which is better than nothing. Like, 1 Bogo is bad enough. 3... that's just terrifying. That's a level of control you don't really need unless you're trying to flex. But the trick with me is I like having the Bogos out because now I can quest for 2 every turn, which helps me get back in the game. Pays the ink, plays out the Ursula, pays with 1, plays out the Cinderella. And that is everything Connor has on his side of the board. All I need is a decent play to get rid of everything on his side of the board, which I can do with 3 Bogos out, and all I need is for 1 Floodborn to really make it work well for me. And there's Tinkerbell. That means that is 4 series of 1 damage to every character on Connor's side of the board, which wipes out entirely. Exactly what I needed, which was perfect. And then with that in mind, we quest with absolutely everybody, going up all the way. I do quest with Flavisham, but I am not going to get rid of the Fortisphere. I'm in fact going to pay a couple more, play out Pete in order to shut down any songs, any actions, and there you go. Connor just didn't have the answer. I have a crazy board out. Ursula would have actually died in that case as well, because that would have been 4 damage to Ursula. 3 Bogo triggers plus a Tinkerbell trigger would have done 4, so in case Connor didn't do the maths there correctly. But there you go, game 2, I got a game over Connor, and this was my claim to fame. Fantastic. It is 1-1 and a decider versus Amber Steel Song. Let's roll over to game 3 and see how this ends. And the final game begins here. Starting off with Connor's turn, simple ink, simple play of a 1-drop Robin Hood to get things kicking off. Meanwhile, my end of the board. I'm going to ink an Aurora. I do have 1 drop. I have a Fortisphere. No 2 drops though. I was hoping to get my 2-drop Tipo, but Tipo seems to be scared in this game. Tipo just did not want to come out whatsoever, which was... ugh. But at least I get the Fortisphere. I draw 1 card. It helps me out. Yes, it does. Robin Hood, quest for 1, plays out the Smee, simple move yet again from the Connor, goes over to me. I do ink a Jafar Dreadnought, And yes, it just goes straight over to Connor. No turn 2 Tipo, which makes me very upset. And here's the thing, I am running both Tipo and I believe Smee in this deck as well to help me out with my early game aggro. If I'm not running Smee, I may have to change some cards around in order to make sure I have at least a couple of copies of Smee in there, just to help out my lower level game, because I think Smee is just an incredible card. Especially as a turn 2 drop, a 3/3 stat block, quest for 2, immediately is a threat out on the board. If you're running captains, then he just does not get the damage. It's absolutely fine. Connor plays out a Pete on his turn, shutting down any actions I want to do. I don't really play a lot of actions on turn 3. It's mostly turn 4 with how far I'll go. And that's if I want to raw play it. If anything, it's turn 5 for me. Because then if I have Flavisham out, I can play how far I'll go to then draw and ink, which is exceedingly helpful. Turn 3 is mostly the Fishbone play, which I've managed to do, or the Pete play, which I can also do, but I just chose not to this time around because there's no benefit for it. Connor here, getting his ink in place, pays what he needs in order to get out the champion of Sherwood. The aggro is on. Why not add some aggro pressure very early on in order to set the tone of how this game's going to move forward? That is the only trick. My early game lacks where my late game exceeds, because I need my ink in order to do my Floodborn combos in order to really start controlling the board and benefiting from what my deck does. Whilst for Connor, if Ambersteel Song has the right bits out on turn 1, you'll be able to set up threats, you'll be able to set up your singers, you'll be able to aggro a little bit like what Connor's doing here. I mean, he can quest for 5 now on every single one of his turns, which is very nice to do at this stage in the game. And he's got a nice sizable board out. I mean, Champion of Sherwood is a 3/6, Smee is a 3/3. Yes, Smee's going to take 1 damage anytime he's exerted, but he's still a 3/3 to get over, and Pete's a 3/3 as well. I just do the best thing at this moment in time, which is let the Storm Rage on Smee, gets rid of him, means he can't quest for at least an extra 2. I draw a card and then I just play out the Pete in order to shut down any action plays, which will help me out. Because with Champion of Sherwood out, that does mean a use of a whole new world being stopped this turn at least, which can help me out. Quest Big, however, goes all the way up, and now we have an exerted Pete and an exerted Sherwood champion Robin Hood on Connor's side of the board, while we go back over to me. Pete in play, Fishbone in play, Fortisphere in play, and my Inkwell building up at a pretty nice rate, if I dare say so myself. Hashtag where's my Flavisham is now swimming in my head, but it's also a matter of what do I do? I'm going to sing with Pete, let the Storm Rage on, deal 2 damage to Connor's Pete, and draw a card. This is a bit of a risky play because I do need to preferably get rid of that Pete now if I don't want Rapunzel to give him a plus. I add an additional ink with the Fishbone Quill, and now just adding bits in my head. Am I going to be able to get rid of that Pete, or am I effectively giving Connor a very easy reason to draw 2 cards? Let's find out. I'm going to play out a Popsicle, draw a card of my own, and maybe, oh so maybe, I think those are my animated hands of, I don't have what I want, sir, please. But this was a big game of thinking. Lots of thinking, lots of strategizing, lots of changing what we wanted to do. I clearly don't have what I need, so we're just going to go Tipo. I'm going to add an extra card to my Inkwell from my hand, but I do play a second Pete. So even though I don't have a way of getting rid of his Pete this turn, so you can benefit from the Rapunzel play, I do benefit from doing other things. Connor on his side of the board, having a Robin Hood and all that lark, plays out the Rapunzel like I thought he would to draw 2 cards, inks a Robin Hood, but I have shut him down with actions, which shuts down Ambersteel Song quite heavily, and we go back to my turn. Pete on board, Tipo on board, but what else? I only have 1 card in hand, and you can probably think right now, If only there was Flaversham. Is he in my hand right now? Probably not. Because typical, when you need that one card the most, it's never going to come out. It's just not. At least with my luck, it's not going to come out. So now I'm thinking of what to do. Robin Hood's the only character exerted, and the only one I can go into. And it's not valuable going into it, because at most I can only deal 4 damage to him with the combo of Pete and Tipo, and I have to trade all the way. So I just play Cusco and put one of my own items, being the Fishbone Quill, which isn't going to benefit when I don't have cards in my hand, into my own Inkwell face down exerted, so at least I have a little bit more ink to play around with. And next turn, if I so wish, I can use the effect of Cusco to give my other characters resist +1 until the start of my next turn. At least that's my logic here. I mostly have the Cusco here for other decks that play items or have those pesky locations like Library or Queen's Castle to be able to get rid of it without having to charge characters into it, so then I can quest or do other things with them. So he's very beneficial. I might be switching him out though in the future. Cusco gets knocked down by Along Came Zeus, leaving both Pete and the child. That is what I refer to with Tipo a lot, by the way. The amount of times in one of my later games I say I'm going to pay 2 and play child. I play the child! But don't sleep on Tipo. Tipo is an absolutely fantastic card. Then we've got Strength of a Raging Fire. That is 5 damage overall to the Pete, getting rid of the Pete. Big Questy LaRue this time around, threatening the game. Because this is a big board to deal with. I need big plays, and I have a child and a card in my hand. Am I able to take over and potentially swing this game to victory? Well, that's a Champion of Sherwood Robin Hood. And Tipo will get rid of Pete. Child Tantrum wins to get rid of the annoying Pete. But sadly, that is all. Fantastic game. Shaking the hand of Connor. That is game 3 of 3. I took Connor to 3 games and I'm super happy about it. Those are the games for this time round, ladies and gentlemen. Be sure to subscribe for some more Lorcana action in the future. Check out the description below for links to the Discord server, to the TikTok page, and to all the other socials so you don't miss out on any Lorcana or any other action from me in any specific way. You can also check out my Ko-Fi account if you want to support me financially, if you so wish, but that is never forced upon. Be sure to subscribe and all that jazz for a free way to support the channel and to enjoy more content in the future. Until next time, I'll be seeing you for more games of Lorcana and more of other things. Stay safe, stay awesome, most importantly, stay explosive, and I'll be seeing you next time.